Hi folks, it's Crystalline. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a repotting video of a red Aglaonema that I repotted earlier this month at the beginning of October. So this video was pre-recorded, but I'm putting it out this week because I am currently editing my Savannah vlog. So I'll be putting that out later this week by Friday. And I'll also be doing a haul video. I'll probably put that out on Sunday, but I'm doing it separate again because the Savannah vlog itself is kind of long, and my apartment tour was my last video and that was really long. So I want to put out a little bit shorter of a video. But I am also waiting for some of the plants that I got in Savannah to readjust to their new pots because I did a lot of repotting yesterday and some propagations. And I just want those plants to sit for a little bit to make sure that they're okay in their new homes before I show them to you in the video. So anyway, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And I hope you enjoy the video. Hi folks, it's Crystalline. So today we are going to be doing a repotting video. This Aglaonema that I got from the sill has been in pretty bad shape since I got it. I was able to rehab it. There were a few leaves that I needed to cut off that sort of were like this, kind of droopy. And I cut those off right away because I didn't want them to be sucking any of the water or nutrients from the plant. But it's been doing okay since then. However, today I noticed another leaf that is drooping like this. This leaf here is yellowing a little bit, and there are still some leaves that have what looks to be a little bit of rot on them. So I'm really concerned about this plant, and I want to make sure that it has the best possible chance of recovering fully. And since it's indoors, I'm not super worried about the cold. I keep this plant in my bathroom so it gets higher temperatures, good lighting, and a lot of humidity. So we are going to repot this plant today, and I'm going to check for any signs of root rot, and just make sure that the plant overall looks to be in good health. So the first thing you want to do when you are repotting plants is to have soil ready. So I don't know if I made enough soil because this is going in a pretty big pot, and I am going to take away some of the soil from this because I do see some signs. Of what might be fungus or something on the soil. So I generally keep most of the original soil when I am repotting plants, but in this case, because I'm concerned about the possibility of fungus on the soil, I am going to give it as much fresh soil as I can and really just keep a close eye on it. So in this pot, I have my soil mixture, and it is just a general all-purpose organic potting mix that has worm castings, limestone, and perlite, and is enriched with some microorganisms. To this organic soil mix, I added some extra perlite to give the plant good drainage because we are worried about the possibility of root rot. And I also added in some peat moss to hold on to water because Aglaonema do like to have water in their soil. So let's go ahead and get started. So my tools today I have are this little scooper to scoop the soil into the pot. I don't wear gloves. I could wear gardening gloves, but I generally keep my fingernails pretty short, so I'm not too worried about getting soil under my nails or anything like that, and it's pretty easy to wash out because, like I said, I keep them short. But I do like to have this little scooper handy just so that I don't get the soil everywhere, because when I'm using my hands it kind of has a tendency to go everywhere. So I also laid down a towel. I'm not sure if you can see it in the frame, but I have not laid down a towel before this. This is the first time I am putting anything down on the ground to protect my carpets. I generally just vacuum right after I repot. I have, in this pot, I have scissors in case I need to cut off any of the leaves or roots or anything. And I also have a shovel just to help with getting the soil into the pot. They are currently in some rubbing alcohol. I washed them off with water first and then put them in this rubbing alcohol just to sanitize them a little bit more, but don't want to use too much rubbing alcohol because it is in short supply right now because of COVID. So anyway, those are my tools. This is the pot that I will be potting this Aglaonema in. It does already have a drainage hole in the bottom, but it's a little small, which is okay because, like I said, Aglaonema are okay to have moist soil from my experience. But the drainage hole is good because since I'm adding the perlite in to help the soil be more well draining, this drainage hole in the bottom will allow for any of that extra moisture to seep out. Now, let's get started. So I have this box that I will be unpotting the plant in, and will put the new pot in to fill with soil. So again, it will help to keep any soil from getting on the floor. There will still be some soil on the floor. I will still have to vacuum after, but hopefully the box and the towel will mitigate too much soil being on the floor. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to squeeze the plant to loosen up the soil and loosen the plant from the pot. And then I'm going to grab a hold of the plant, the entire plant, not just one leaf or anything like that, and pull it out. So it looks like our roots are doing really well. The soil is just falling apart everywhere, so it's a good thing that I had planned. It's a good thing that I had planned to get rid of that soil because the soil is just falling apart everywhere. But you can see the roots are nice and white. There doesn't seem to be any signs of root rot, which is good. However, I am going to take some more of this soil off just because of the possibility of fungus. And we are going to give this plant a nice new home. So as you can see, I'm just gently squeezing to loosen up the soil. These roots are not, it's not too root bound. There are a lot of roots in here, so I think this plant will enjoy a larger pot to spread its roots out in. This is a lot of roots for not too many stems, honestly. And these roots are super healthy, so that's good. I don't really know why this plant's not doing well. Maybe it's just because it wasn't in good shape when I first got it and I had to rehab it. Or maybe it's not liking the soil it's in. I don't really know. Okay, so you can see these roots are pretty free from soil now. I'm going to put this into the new pot to see how high I want to put the first layer of soil to be. So here's the pot, and I'm going to put it in here. I want the stems to be about here. So I'm going to fill up just enough so that the roots have something to sit on the bottom. Now, as I mentioned, this pot does have a drainage hole, and I have modified the soil to be well draining so that any extra water can escape. However, there are a lot of pots that don't have drainage holes when you first get them. If you order a pot online that is meant to be more of a cache pot or a catch pot, sometimes it won't have a drainage hole in the bottom. And there are options for what you can do. I tend to be a very heavy waterer, and I like to give my plants a lot of love and attention. So I opt for creating a drainage hole in the pot. And what's good about that is that the excess moisture can drain out and you don't really have to worry about modifying anything other than putting the soil in it. But some people are not heavy waterers like I am, and it is okay for them if their pot does not have a drainage hole. I still would recommend not using pots that don't have a drainage hole for any plant that is very sensitive to overwatering or is sensitive to root rot. But if you do want to use a pot that doesn't have a drainage hole, just because you don't want to create a drainage hole in it, or because you don't want to have to put a saucer under it to catch the water that comes out of the drainage hole, I have seen a lot of videos on Instagram that are that have tips for what to put in the bottom of the pot. So you can put something like aquarium stones, those little fake gemstones that you put in aquariums, because that will allow the soil to drain into the aquarium stones, and that way the roots aren't sitting directly in the water all the time. That's also a good option for if you are a chronic underwaterer, because then the water that gets into the water that sits in the aquarium rocks can come back up into the soil. The soil can like reabsorb some of that water. So that is a good option if you don't have a drainage hole and you are a chronic underwaterer. You can always take the option of putting some aquarium rocks or just like some stones, just like some regular gravel in there. So now I have put enough soil in here to be like where I want the bottom of the roots to be. And I am just going to go ahead and hold the plants still as I fill in soil around it. So I believe this is called backfilling. And I am just going to pour the soil in so that it can fall down into the roots around the plant. So anyway, yeah, like I was saying, if you are a chronic underwaterer and you have no fears about overwatering your plants, sometimes a plant or a pot with no drainage hole can be a good option. And I definitely did not make enough soil, so I'm going to mix some more soil as I continue to talk to you about pots. So choosing the right pot for your plant is important, just as is choosing the right soil for your plant. If you have a plant that wants to be pretty dry, a great option is terracotta, because terracotta will wick away some of the moisture. So for plants that either like to be watered frequently but don't like to stay wet, or for plants that like to be a little on the drier side, terracotta is always a great option. Terracotta is also a cheap option, which is good. For plants that do like to stay more moist, terracotta obviously would not be a great option because it does not hold on to the extra moisture. So I would avoid using terracotta and would opt for something more like a ceramic pot, specifically a ceramic pot that is glazed on the inside, because if it's glazed on the inside, it will not absorb as much of the water into the pot itself. So when I'm making my soil, I will mix in approximately what looks to be a good ratio of the potting mix to the sphagnum moss to the perlite, and then I'll just mix it around with my hands. Nothing fancy. Haven't even used my tools yet. Might not use them at all, but they're sanitized for the next time I do want to use them. So anyway, I'm just going to continue backfilling. I think I am going to cut off this droopy leaf because it is not doing anything for the plant. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to dry them off with this towel here because it is still a clean towel. It is important to sanitize your scissors both before and after you use them to prune plants, because if there is some sort of fungal infection or anything on this plant, I don't want to use these scissors on my next plant. This is a gross leaf. Sad. See how sad it is? It's sad and gross. So I'm just going to put these back into the rubbing alcohol now. But again, you want to sanitize your tools before, because just in case you forgot to sanitize them after the last time you used them, or in case they were stored in a place where they may have gotten any bacteria or fungus on them, you don't want to use that on your plants because you don't want to spread anything to your plants. And then you want to sanitize after, because anything that this plant was experiencing that could be detrimental to other plants, you don't want to spread that on to your other plants. Sorry, this video is really all over the place. I honestly did not have any plans to make a video today or to even repot this plant until I woke up this morning and saw that it was in pretty sad shape, and figured that since it is now the beginning of October, that it would be good to get this repotted before it gets too much colder. And I didn't know what to talk about while I was repotting, so I put on my Instagram story, what should I talk about while I repot? And my dear friend Erin said that I should talk about what to do if a pot doesn't have a drainage hole. So I guess I am talking a little bit about my repotting process and my soil process and what to do if your pot doesn't have a drainage hole, and all of those things all in one video. I'll probably make individual videos about all of these things at some point, but because I was repotting today, I needed something to talk about, so here we go. So anyway, once I have put some soil into this plant, I just sort of tap the edges, and that is a tip that I learned from Harley G. If you tap the edges of the pot, it allows the soil to more gently settle into any gaps or air bubbles that might be in the pot. And then you can see just how much more you need to put in there. And you want to fill your pot until it's about an inch below the edge of the pot, because that will make sure that none of the soil like spills over when you're watering, because the soil does tend to expand a little when it gets wet. And then you just want to, you know, tap the sides a little bit. Make sure that there are no bubbles, and then you just want to gently pat down the soil. But you don't want to pack it down too much. This video is literally all over the place. I also should have mentioned that when you are choosing a new pot, I'm going to do a whole video about choosing a pot for your plants because it's really fun. I like to make aesthetic as well as functional choices when I am repotting my plants. But when you're repotting a plant for size reasons, you want it to be just one size bigger than the pot it is currently in. And so this was in a 6-inch nursery pot that is not very deep and is 6 inches in width, diameter. So I chose this pot because it's only about 2 inches deeper than that pot, and it's also not too much wider. I think this is an 8-inch pot. So it's only about one size bigger than the other pot, so it's good. So now I am just packing the soil in and making sure that the plant will be able to stand up. And voila. Here is my still a little sad, but will be much happier Aglaonema in its new pot. And I think it looks great in this pot. It is green, and the green looks great with the green and red and pink foliage and stems. So in summary, repotting. Make a soil mixture that is appropriate for your plant. For this Aglaonema, I chose to mix potting mix with some sphagnum moss and some additional perlite. The potting mix is just a pre-made potting mix, but the addition of the extra perlite will help with drainage, and the sphagnum will help with holding on to some moisture to keep the Aglaonema happy. If you are choosing a pot, I always recommend a pot with a drainage hole because I am an overwaterer. But for those that are not overwaterers or even are chronic underwaterers, you can choose a pot with no drainage hole, but you will need to modify the bottom of the pot with the addition of maybe some aquarium rocks or some type of gravel or charcoal to allow the soil to drain and so that your plant is not sitting in water all the time. This is especially important for plants that are susceptible to root rot. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really did not have a plan for it, and I think that is pretty obvious. Comment down below on any questions you have about repotting. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And comment down below any thoughts you have on my repotting process or any questions you have for the next repotting video. Thanks, everyone.